Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we'll be talking about Fantastic Four First Steps, the first Fantastic Four movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it only took like 37, 38 movies to finally get these guys into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Let's get into it.
Here. Whatever life throws at us, we'll face it together. As a family.
Alright, so right off the bat, non-spoilers, just kind of giving my quick thoughts. I'm not a huge Fantastic Four fan, but I've always been waiting. I think the two pillars are the Fantastic Four and the X-Men are kind of like the two groups that we are waiting to get into the MCU, right? To kind of round out the entire MCU. I feel like they did a really good job at creating the family dynamic. My only issue is that this movie is too short, guys. We've gotten to this point where I feel like kind of Thunderbolts did this, and it was also my issue with Superman, where studios are just getting to the point where they just want to cut things down to hit a certain time limit. They're not worried about what is good for the story and do we need to spend more time with these characters or maybe flesh out a B plot more, which there is a B plot that goes on here that I think would have been really interesting to explore, but we barely even explore it. And real pacing issues with me here. I have real pacing issues with the way that Hollywood is making movies nowadays, and I don't know how I'm going to get over that because I just feel like you need to be able to spend time with these characters, right? They're taking for granted, I think, a little bit that we know these characters from the comic books. The other thing I will say about this movie is, yes, it's set in its own universe. So I guess Marvel's thinking is like, oh, you don't need to do any homework before you watch this movie. And I would disagree. I feel like there is a ton of comic book lore in here. There's a ton of comic book references in here that if you don't know these things, I think you're going to be leaving the theater scratching your head being like, I don't really understand. I don't want to go into spoilers really. I can't in this video. I'll do a full spoiler live stream with a couple guests in a few days, probably maybe even next weekend. I don't know how long it's going to be until we do that, but we will get the full spoiler up because I do have some thoughts, but I do feel like they miscalculated here. They need to be longer. We need to spend time with these characters. Yes, do we know the Fantastic Four? Of course we know the Fantastic Four, but we don't know this iteration of the Fantastic Four, and so we need to spend a little bit more time. Talking on the actress' performance, I think the standout here is Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm. She acts circles around everybody in this movie, guys. I'm gonna be honest. She is like on a completely different level than everybody else. Pedro Pascal plays Reed Richards. I don't buy him as Reed Richards. I never really did. Every time I see his face, I see Pedro. Every time he talks, I see Pedro. So while he's kind of Reed Richards and he plays the character of Reed, Reed is also a very dry character in the comic books. So, but there is an emotional depth, and he kind of does that, but I just haven't fully got there with that. Eben Moss-Bachrach plays Ben Grimm in this movie. I think he does a great job when he's allowed to do a great job, and when he's allowed to have chemistry with all of them. I think he does a great job. He needs to shine more in the sequels, in Doomsday and all other things. We need to put him at the forefront. And Johnny Storm, also played by Joseph Quinn, did a really good job. Again, had maybe a little bit of an arc. He's also supposed to be kind of a bad boy. They did a different kind of take on him a little bit, which I thought was all right, but he was kind of one note too almost. There was a little bit to explore, but we definitely needed more. And again, there is more in the cutting room floor, right? There is more. I know, there's more. And they just said, cut, 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 cut. I blame the Minecraft movie. I've talked about this a little bit before with a couple of my colleagues, but I blame the Minecraft movie for the way that things have turned out this year. Warner Brothers, the Minecraft movie is one of the biggest movies of the year. And I personally didn't see that movie, but I feel like it's cut to the point where it's just like action, 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 and we don't really breathe, right? It's just like the pacing of the Minecraft movie is probably, I guess I need to see it in order to confirm, but I'm sure it's just like in your face, in your face, in your face, in your face, and we just move, 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 and we don't get to slow down. They kind of do it here, but they don't do it enough, in my opinion. The other thing I think that hinders this is the VFX in this are lacking. There are VFX problems in this movie that could have been fixed if they would have had more time. The issue is they went into production and they started filming this movie like a year ago. So they only had, and yes, you start working on VFX shots before they actually do principal photography. I understand that, but not a ton. And so, and you can only use the physical plates that you capture when you start principal photography. So the fact that this really only got to cook for like a year, I think you can see it. I think the VFX is a little like is a little egregious at some points. You're like, oh my. At least I was like, man, this doesn't look very good. There is a sequence in space. When they go into space, I thought that was like that, and the end of the movie is like the height of the movie for me emotionally. And there is stakes in this movie. So that's another thing I want to say to round out this review, and then this will be my thoughts. There are stakes here. There is a story here, right? This is something that I thought, if you go watch my Superman videos, something I thought that was missing from Superman was a central story. Right? There's a lot of things that happen in Superman, and there's a lot of emotional things that happen in Superman, but there's no story, realistically. There are moments that are cut together. Here, there's actually a story. There's actual stakes. Here on the channel, we like to talk about the physical, the external conflict and the internal conflict, and there are both of these in this movie, so check. We checked both of those boxes. I would have really liked to see a little bit more tension within the family. We kind of touch on that a little bit, but I'm sure there's more of that on the cutting room floor, and I really wish we would have gotten like 15 minutes, 20 more minutes. This could have been 2 hours and 20 minutes, and it still would have been shorter than most of the long comic book movies that are out there, right? Make it 220. Give us an extra 20 minutes. Why this thing clocked in at 2 hours, around 2 hours, I'll never understand. I just don't think that's enough time. I'm invested in these characters. I love these characters. And if you, I know they wrote a longer script. You always write more than what is presented to you on the screen. It's always longer, right? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I want Hollywood to stop, and I want them to write good scripts and then translate those scripts into onto the screen. And yes, you are going to delete things, you are going to change things, but keep your story moments and let your films breathe more. I watched X-Men, the first X-Men. I watched that last night, and that movie clocks in literally like before credits at an hour 35. But I don't know, just the way that they pace it. So timing isn't really even the issue. It's just the way that you decide to use your screen real estate, as they say, and what you decide to put in front of your audience, I think is maybe needs to be rethought with a lot of these Hollywood movies. That's just my opinion. Again, you can let me know in the comments down below. What do you think? Do I recommend this? Yes, I recommend this. Go see this in IMAX. Don't see it in 3D. Unfortunately, the only IMAX showing I had out here was in 3D, and I hate 3D. I love 3D because it's cool, but I hate it because you put darkened filters over your eyes, and so it darkens the picture. So that's a no in my book. Anytime you have to alter the image that basically the filmmakers want you to see, I mean, it's just like, I'm just like, what's the point? Like, so I always feel gypped, and I feel like, well, I'm not seeing the full movie, because colors are important to me. Contrast levels are very important to me. What the filmmaker wants me to see in terms of contrast ratios and levels of darkness and levels of brightness, that matters to me. That's what I look at. I look at a ton of things when I watch a movie because I'm a filmmaker. It's what I do. So again, will majority of people care about that? Probably not, but I did. So those are my thoughts and my grievances with the movie. Did I enjoy it overall? Yes, I did. Am I going to go see it again? Yes, I will. And I do recommend that you go see it if you are a Marvel fan. If you're not a Marvel fan, like I said, there's a lot of comic book stuff in here. A lot of things that they reference, Galactus being a thing where if you don't know who he is and if you don't have any experience with him, you may be like, I don't know what's going on. And it may throw you off. So if you're not a comic book fan, maybe you wait for streaming. I don't know if this is going to necessarily be the one for you guys. But if you are a comic book fan, I think you're going to really enjoy this because they do a lot of cool things. With that being said, don't forget to like if you enjoyed this and if you learned something and if you like my opinions on movies and movie news and filmmaking and all that stuff. It lives on the channel. I greatly appreciate you guys stopping by and listening to my review of the Fantastic Four First Steps. Go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what do you think about the Fantastic Four First Steps. I'll see you in the spoiler review. Take care.